So we've just had our third and final offer rejected on this property behind us. These things happen, that's why you need to have lots of deals in the pipeline, but the main thing is you should never start to increase your offers just because you want to get the deal over the line, because every time you spend more on a property, of course you should be locking in profit from day one, but reducing the amount of money that you can spend on a refurb, you're obviously then increasing the loan to value if you're not buying cash. You're then also reducing your monthly cash flow, and again, really, in 20-30 years time it won't really make that much difference, but if you're in a rush now to increase your cash flow, then that's a different thing, okay? So what I'll do is, rather than stand here on this quiet noisy street, I will do a little bit more of a longer video, but just in case you don't watch it immediately after this, don't increase your third and final offer. Make sure you stick to your standards all the time, okay? Have that discipline. Good luck. Disciplined investors do not move their offer, okay? So if you put in your third and final offer, that's it. Remember now, we must hold ourselves to standards all the time. We must have set standards for, again, how you're viewing properties, how you're analysing properties, how you're refurbishing the properties, how you live your life, and so on. The same applies on micro levels, such as, you know, your property investing journey with your offers. So unfortunately, we had our third and final offer rejected on that property, and that's it, okay? So the first thing we do is, obviously, we always record the offers. We send in an official letter via email and so on, stating our position. Now, we record when the offer's been rejected, what date it was, and then we'll circle back every 2 or 4 or 6 weeks, depending on how many projects we've got on the go, depending on how much we thought it was a great deal. But one of the things that obviously we never do is, again, a lot of this links back to, I think it's Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. I'm sure that's his name. Apologies if I've got his name wrong. The main principle then, there's obviously lots of principles within that book, but as soon as you're splitting the difference, you know, I'll meet you halfway, you know, most people, yeah, all right, I'll meet you halfway type of thing, but most people, you know, this person isn't that happy and neither's this person. But for you now, every time you meet somebody halfway, unless that's already in your parameters for your offer, you're going to be losing out. And again, setting and reduction of your standards, and the standards really will then impact more than likely your cash flow, more than likely your return on capital employed, and depending on how large the deal is, how happy you are overall with that deal. So at the moment now, we're putting in a few offers each week, and lots of them are being rejected. It's part and parcel of it, like running any single business. You're going to get rejections, especially in face-to-face sales and so on. But you'll notice, especially if you study the property cycle or watched any of my other videos on the property cycle, that as soon as we're in this, obviously the latter part of the property cycle, when we're in like the boom phase, more and more offers get rejected, which is fine, okay? It's part and parcel of it. You need to always have, again, we've got our black belt framework for investing. If it's a standard buy-to-let 2-bedroom one, these are the parameters that we need. If we're looking to convert something into a 4 or 5 bed HMO, these are the parameters. If it's just a flip project, these are the parameters. And again, it's all going to pull back to the standards. But getting back to the main purpose of the video, what you don't want to do is train your agents, especially if you're only investing in your local area and obviously start to get to know the agents. You don't want them to go, oh, well, you know, Dervish always has one offer, we'll knock that back. Then he'll come back with another offer, then we'll knock that back, and his third and final offer is obviously the final one. You can train them to know that your third offer is the final offer, but you never want them to obviously say, right, well, why don't we meet halfway? So for instance, the figures on that property that we're looking for then, it was original up for 165. Now, along that area, that is a very good price for that property, but, and again, here's the but, it had probably about £8,000, £10,000 worth of damp work that needed doing to it. Now, some people might go into that and think, right, well, it'll only take 2,000 or 3,000, but, you know, we made that mistake many years ago, and you start opening things up, and the older the house, obviously the more things can go wrong with it if it hasn't been well maintained previously, and if it hasn't had a deep refurb. So there was already there, you know, £8,000-10,000 in damp. It needed a new kitchen, so I added another 4 there. It needed a new bathroom, added on another 4. So then you're already into 8, you're into 16,000. Then obviously full painting, carpets throughout. I can't really remember the internal, you know, the woodwork and so on, but when you're in that position, unless they were, you know, all right, you might as well do all that as well, because you want it to pop and you want to make sure you're really pushing through the ceiling price for rental. And also, if you're implementing the BII, you want the valuer to come around and think, straight away they haven't cut any corners. So spending a couple of extra thousand on new skirting and internal doors could push the uplift more and tip it up, by an extra 5 or 10,000 as part of the overall value. Now, again, that would have rented. We have 2 on that row at the moment. It's quite a long street, very close to the metro link. So I think it's 875 or 895 is one of them, and the other one is 915. And at the bottom of that road, probably again maybe another 30 seconds walk, so still extremely close to the metro link, they pay 875. That's a slightly busier road. So based on the size of that property, you'd probably be looking for it now in today's market. You would probably push it to 950, see if we've got an interest over 2 weeks. If not, then reduce it to 925. But it is a slightly bigger property, slightly further up the street, so it's not as busy, but yet still close to the motorway and still close to the Metrolink. Anyway, getting back to it then. So the standards that you set yourself, and the standards that obviously you're investing and acquiring assets with, you need to make sure you stick to those standards, because as soon as you go, well, it's only this once, as soon as you've done something once, it's easy to do it the second time, then the third time, then the fourth time, and so on. So again, I'll always mention this to any of my mentees that I work with on a private basis. And again, if you've been watching my videos before, you know that a lot of it is I train investors, or I help people, build their portfolios by using set standards and criteria, because I know from teaching, karate for over 20 years and being involved in karate for coming up to 30 years. In fact, I've been teaching karate more than 20 years, but in my own martial arts school that I built, you can't rush things, okay? You can, but the foundations are all over the show. So you need to make sure that this is what happens when my third and final offer gets rejected. I move on to the next thing. I've got things in the pipeline anyway, and don't get emotionally tied to the property. So I know I've scribbled a few things down there. I probably will end up writing a blog on this as well. So maybe, check out the website and I'll go into a little bit more detail. But you should never increase your third and final offer. That's it, okay? You want to train the vendors, train the agents that you're serious, and that offer is that, you don't want to fall for the scarcity mindset. Well, we've got another few viewings booked in. If you want it, you're going to have to increase your offer. That's where you need to be, cut all the emotions out. Now, if it's your own residential home, then again, that's where emotions can play on it bigger, that you're looking to move up or down the ladder and you're really falling in love with this property, and then you can sway. But if you still maintain your standards, you want to make sure that, again, I've said it lots of times before, you make money when you buy the property. Of course, you can make money when you sell the property if you're doing flips or, refinance, but you make money when you buy. So if we would have increased our offer up to 148, because apparently that's what the vendor was after, then we're already £8,000 more into the deal, which cuts us down by, we're already then bringing money from the refurb, in theory, down by £8,000, and any uplift that we get, the uplift has now gone like that really when it comes to refinancing. So you should never just think, oh, it's only an extra 5,000 or 8,000. And estate agents like to work in nice round numbers. So we put in an offer of 140. It was originally up for 165, then it dropped to 160, I think. Then it was offered for 150. I'm surprised it didn't go, right, well, why don't we do 145? Even at 145, we wouldn't have done it. The only reason that we would have increased that offer is if we knew that upon survey it would reveal something like, it needs a brand new roof or something along those lines, and then use that £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 that the surveyor will have put on the report as a bargaining tool. And again, we would have said, right, well, if it's come back at this, I know it won't cost that much. It'll cost even more because we've done it before, including scaffolding. Scaffolding now has increased in value, increased as everything has. So, we need to reduce it by this amount, still building it in. So really, again, I've scribbled a few things down. I'm going to create a blog on this later. It'll probably be available, I don't know. I upload blogs every Wednesday, so again, check out the website, dervishdervish.com. But like I mentioned all the time, it's about you maintaining that black belt discipline. And again, I touch upon it in my latest book, The Property Investor's Blueprint there. So it's available on paperback and it's available on hardback. I suggest you invest in a copy. I think it's $12.99, $13.99. I think that's $19.99. Gives you a little bit more of an idea into the insight of how disciplined investors work. But again, if you find value from it, please write a not a Google review, an Amazon review. It just helps other readers, obviously, you know, make the decision of whether or not they need to buy the book and whether or not they need to learn from it. So again, readers are leaders. The more you learn, the more you earn. I'm sure there's going to be some things in that book that you can implement to improve your journey. To conclude, don't go above your last final offer. This is even more apparent really when you're buying at auctions, you know, especially when the auctioneer is throwing bids off the wall. You need to make sure you stick to your goalposts, because it's the same. You want to make sure that if you're sticking to the goalposts, that your profit is locked in from day one and you're giving yourself some breathing space in case the property market does dip, and also in case you find some things that you haven't budgeted for on your refurb, or indeed your refurb just goes over. So I hope that helped some people. Just remember, don't increase your last offer. Keep disciplined, hold yourself to standards, and keep working on your framework to be successful. Check out the comment below, and good luck, all the best.